screaming. Oh, streaming, excuse me. It says, looks like you're ready. Well, I'd say we're ready. Go live. Alrighty, we are rolling, I believe. So let's begin. Good morning, my name is Norm Ellis. This is the Adult One Bible Study at Grace Baptist Church in beautiful Vancouver, where today it's a little cloudy and been raining. We needed the rain, so that's okay, I don't mind. Welcome to the class, and today we're going to be in Numbers chapter 13. Yes, the dreaded chapter of Numbers. I don't like all those numbers. You'll like this one. And it's called the land. The land. Now, what we're referring to when we say the land, it's obviously the promised land, right? The promised land. And we're in session number 3, or that starts on page 28 if you have a copy of the study book. And our 3 points that we're looking at today is the task outlined, and that's verses 17 through 20, the land assessed, 21 through 25, and the decision at hand, what they're going to do, 26 through 31. And the main idea today is that God requires obedient faith in the face of fear. Wow, is that easy to do? Probably not, right? It's difficult, isn't it? And we have some additional verses that we will probably get to, I hope, in Genesis 6:4, Numbers 13, some additional verses in that chapter, the same chapter we're in. Isaiah 41:10, John 14:27, 2 Timothy 1:17, and if we get to it, Numbers 14, verse 6, and verse 30. Let's have a word of prayer, and we'll start. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity we have to study your word. Lord, your word is precious to us. And Lord, we just pray that this study today will be the thing we need in our lives, Lord. It will help us in our determination of our faith. And we continue to grow and learn from these things that the Israelites went through. Lord, I just thank you for this beautiful day. And thank you for the people that are here, those online and those in the class. And thank you for all you've done in your creation. In your son's name, amen. All right. So, this is the land, the land. Now, we have over here a map. Those of you online may not see the whole thing. I apologize. It is in our handouts, and I forgot to mention that. Sometimes I do forget to mention things. In the handouts today, I have 6 pages. Wow, why so many pages? Because it's good stuff. But anyway, you'll notice that there is a copy of this map, handout number 3. Handout number 3. If you look at handout number 3, which is I think actually is the 4th page. But those of you in class who have a copy, unfortunately, it's not in color. But if you got looking at your handout online, the email, it shows it in color. And this poster is also right here. No, I take that back. It's over here. I look at the wrong side. Another map over here. And those of you online can probably not see this one. It's in the corner. I apologize. But anyway, it shows the journey of the spies. And so we'll be talking about spies today, right? All right. I'm going to point out here, where did the spies start? Well, the children of Israel had left Mount Sinai, and they traveled from Mount Sinai to this area here. It's right outside what's called the wilderness of Zin. This is where they had camped in this area. There was an oasis near there, a couple of oases near there, so they're probably taking advantage of that. And so they're at the gates of the promised land. Now, just a little trivia here. Is that where they came in when they came in after the 40 years of wandering? No, they did not. Where did they come in instead? Remember?
Across from Jericho.
Across from Jericho, exactly right. You get the gold star. Across from Jericho, and Jericho is located right here. So they had to cross the Jordan River. So they had started out on the second time they came into the Promised Land. Well, the second time they came to go into the Promised Land, they had started out here in the middle, and so it's a little bit different. So it's easy to get confused because there's 2 different episodes, isn't there? This is the first episode when they first came to the Promised Land, and so we're going to be talking about that today. So course book, if you look at page 28, or if you copy the handouts, page 1 of the handouts in the middle, there's something called the intro paragraph. So I'm going to read that for us. It says, have you ever noticed how a project tends to grow? You decide to clean out the backyard shed, or maybe the garage, or perhaps a real messy closet. And you're going to put down maybe new liner paper in the kitchen cabinets, whatever the project, right? You're going to start to paint the kids' bedroom. You figure out how long it's going to take, and you can visualize maybe the steps, what it will look like when you get finished, too. And as you begin, you are excited. But about halfway through, you say, what was I thinking? I've bitten off more than I could chew, perhaps, right?
This thing's twice as big as it was when I started.
Yeah. This is a lot more complicated than I thought it would be. You might say that as well, right? So, what was the last project you had that was maybe more complicated or took longer or whatever it was than you thought it would be? You think of a project you've been maybe still working on?
Repairing a new part on my bike.
Oh, that's right. Your BMW, it's a BMW, right?
Yeah.
And it's taken longer than you thought, right? You had to get painted. The last thing I heard was something waiting for that.
No, not even that. That's I understand. No, I was thinking of replacing that left carrier panel and the left mirror, and then take all the fairing pieces on the left side off and whatnot, and everything else. And sitting there on my bucket looking, I'm in over my head on this. So I put everything in a box real nice and neatly and took it to the whole shop, and they said, yeah, we can put it back together for you. They called me 2 weeks later and said, our tech threw all your parts away.
Oh, that's right. You told me about this. Oh,
8 months later,
inadvertently.
And 2 text messages from my lawyer. I got my bike back.
Finished?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
didn't have to pay a penny for it.
Well, that was their fault. Yeah.
Well, I had taken all the parts. I was going to pay for their labor to put everything on. That's understandable. Paying for the new parts was on them.
No, yeah, that'd be simple. Well, anyway, sometimes these things take longer than you expect.
8 months.
Yeah, I've been working on this extra area in the back of my garage for a while now. It's not anywhere near being done. It's taking more time, and I don't have time. It's funny, I'm retired, but it doesn't seem like I have the time I had when I was working.
I know that.
Yeah, so these things can happen, right? So how did you handle it? Did you get upset? Did you get mad? Did you get determined? There's all kinds of ways we can handle things like that, right? So this is kind of what we're talking about here with the children of Israel. The next big thing for them, they've left Mount Sinai, and they've went through the wilderness area, and they're at the door of the promised land. This is where 400 years previously, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and then Joseph, then they left to go to Egypt, right? They spent 400 years away from their home, but now they're back. Right? So after 400 years, people have lived and died in Egypt, and they've multiplied a great deal. So, is there anybody there that remembers being in the promised land? No, there isn't. So there's probably going to be some issues with this new group of people, right? And we already know that they've been complaining. That's one of our handouts today. Let me look real closely here. I think, handout number 2 shows the timeline. And so we are, this is after 4 decades, that's not right. That's the other one, that's right. We are on the timeline at 1445 BC approximately. That's that middle column at the bottom. That's where we're at timeline-wise. But anyway, if you look at handout number 4, it talks about complaints in the wilderness. And this is a repeat handout we had before. And we're in Numbers chapter 13. And so if you look at the Numbers chapter 13 passage, the complaint was they had doubts in their ability to defeat the promised land current inhabitants and take back their land, take over their land. And also they had rejection of the promised land. So those are the 2 things we're kind of looking at, today. So I'll give you an idea of what's coming up in our study today. So Israel spent a lot of time at Mount Sinai, by the way, receiving the law and instructions for the tabernacle and things. Now they found themselves at the brink, at the door of the northern, the southern door, if you want to call it that, of the land of Canaan, right? And that's their promised land where they had lived previously before Egypt. The land that God had promised their ancestors centuries before. How many centuries? At least 4 centuries. That's a long time, 400 years. So today we're going to look at how the Israelites responded to God's faithfulness in bringing them all the way back, just like he said he would, to the border of the promised land, protecting them, feeding them, keeping them safe from their enemies and all these things, right? Especially after they realized the task was going to be more challenging, though, than they expected. So we're going to look at that aspect of it here. So let's look at the first point here. First point is that the task is being outlined, okay? And what's in it for us to learn from this? Well, Christians can depend on God to instruct them in the task that he has for them. And that is true, right? As Christians, we can count on God doing that for us. He can instruct us. Now, how does he instruct us? That's a good question. Great question, Norm.
Yeah.
How does he instruct us?
One way is through the Bible.
Okay, exactly.
Others is through the messages we receive from the minister or.
Okay, good. Yeah, people we know God's word and are faithful and are Christians, right? That's you want to make sure of those kind of things. And of course, when we pray, God gives us insight into what we should do, perhaps too. But everything, whatever we hear from somebody else, let's say even the pastor, and what we think somebody might be telling us, we've put it through the filter of God's word.
Right.
And that's the primary one you want to do. Always filter it through God's word. And so when we do that, we're going to be on the right track. So he's going to tell us in one way or another. So for our first 4 verses, and this is verses 17 through 20. Let me see here. Was there something I wanted to say about those previous ones, though? Hold on just a moment. Where did I do? Oh, there it is. Sometimes I have so much junk here in the way. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read that part because it's kind of fundamental to what we're going to be talking about before that first point. It says in verses 13, chapter 13, verse 1 through 16. It says, Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Send out for yourself men, so they may spy out the land of Canaan, which I am going to give to the sons of Israel. You shall send a man from each of their fathers' tribes, every one a leader among them. So Moses sent them from the wilderness of Paran at the command of the Lord, all of them the men who were heads of the sons of Israel. These were their names. From the tribe of Reuben, Shammui, the son of Zucker. And from the tribe of Simeon, Shaphat, the son of Hori. I should have one of you guys read this. These names are hard. just kidding. From the tribe of Judah came this young man named Caleb. Sounds familiar. He was the son of Jephunneh. From the tribe of Issachar was Igal, the son of Joseph. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hosea, the son of Nun. And by the way, Hosea was also later Joshua. Yeah. Just keep that in mind too. From the tribe of Benjamin, Palti, the son of Raphu. From the tribe of Zebulun, Gadiel, the son of Sodi. From the tribe of Joseph, from the tribe of Manasseh, Gadi, the son of Susi. From the tribe of Dan, Amiel, the son of Jimali. There we go, that's close enough. From the tribe of Asher, Sethur, the son of Michael, or Mishal. From the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi, the son of Vophsi. From the tribe of Gad, Jeuel, the son of Micah, or Malchah, M-A-C-H-I. These are the names of the men whom Moses sent out to spy out the land. But Moses called Hosea, the son of Nun, Joshua. Joshua. So that's some edification there for that too as well. So we have prominent leaders that was recognized by Moses, right? And Moses pick these guys out? So were they all older folks, do you think, or what do you think? Not necessarily, right?
No,
And
no, they had to be young enough to hike.
well, yeah, they just,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah. And we know that, for instance, Caleb and Joshua, they were the only two that were able to enter the promised land later. So they had to be fairly young, fairly energetic people at that time. Of course, God also energized them, I think, personally. Anyway, so that leads us up to our verses here. It gives us a little bit of foundation for that part there. So again, the task is now outlined. In the first 4 verses, I want you to notice the instructions Moses gave to the men who were scouting the land. And that's 17 through 20. Who has number 1? Steve, I think you got number 1 for me, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and read that for us.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was off in Neverland.
That's okay.
You're thinking of something else. When Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, he said to them, "Go up there into Negev, then go up into the hill country. See what the land is like, and whether the people who live in it are strong or weak, whether they are few or many. How is the land in which they live? Is it good or bad? And how are the cities in which they live? Are they open camps or with fortifications? How is the land? Is it fat or lean? Are there trees in it or not? Make an effort then to get some of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes."
Okay. So what we think is, from the indications we have, it was close to harvest time. It was in the harvest era that they were there. Now, Moses hasn't been in the land of Canaan. No one else has been in the land of Canaan either. And so, if you're going into an area to repossess your property, which is what they're doing, what's a prudent thing to do?
Send out
Check it out.
somebody look at it.
Yeah. What's it like? You know, these people were going to go in there that are already there. We're going to have to displace them, so we need to know more about them, just from a tactical standpoint. If you're a commander of a force that's doing something like this, you have to know certain things, right? So you need to know whether it's strong or weak, whether the cities are fortified or not, right? These are the things they're asking. But what else are they asking besides that?
What the people, are there many people,
Mhm.
or what do they look like?
Yeah.
Is there army fortifications, or and if it's an enclosed city, they want to know about the walls, or
Right. All those are good military things. But besides the military things, there's some other things he needs to know too. In verse 20, for instance, he wants to know the topography. In other words, what is the land like?
yeah.
Are there trees or not? Is the land fat or lean? Now, what does it mean when they say fat or lean, do you think?
Was it productive?
There you go. Was it productive or was it kind of barren, you know?
Yeah.
Now, they'd heard things about the promised land from their fathers and their grandfathers and such, right? But things tend to get changed through the years, and is that really true? We got to assess this. We got to make sure, right? And so make an effort to get maybe some of the fruit of the land. So they want to know, when we get into this land, what do we got to do to make it productive, you know? So that's what they're asking about. Now, it doesn't say some other things, but I'm going to assume certain other things. Since he's asking these things about the cities and asking about what the land is like, what do you think they're probably doing?
Assessing their ability to be able to overcome the inhabitants. I mean,
Do you think they're writing a report? The land out here in this part is like this. The cities are like this.
Yeah.
And you know, that big city Jericho, let's sketch what the walls look like. You know, I think that they're doing something like that. I think they're probably, not only, they're being thorough. They're getting the information Moses asked for it, and he picked who? He picked the best people to do the job. So you have some people here that are on the ball. They're actually wanting to know all these things about this land they're going to go into soon because they're going to live there.
But they had at least the oral history from their forefathers of what was promised to Abraham, and so they should have had some inkling that God was going to provide, but they weren't used to the ways of following God, probably. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, that's all part of what we're going to be talking about, right?
Right.
Because they're like children in a sense, spiritually
Right.
speaking. They have not been used to following God, and so God's been helping to bring them again to understand that they need to have faith in Him, believe His promises. Now, He said He'd take them out of Egypt, and He'd defeat Pharaoh. Pharaoh was the Egyptian people were the superpower. Okay, I don't believe that. I'll wait till I see it. And then what do we see? We see the plagues, and we see what? The people are actually leaving now. And matter of fact, they're not just leaving, they're looting as they leave, in a sense, because the Egyptians were giving them things. Here, take this, take my gold, leave, leave, leave. You know, we've had too much of this. And so they leave, and they also saw the army coming after them. What are we going to do? God opened up the Red Sea, escaped the army, closed the Red Sea on the army. So, and you see this pillar of fire at night, this pillar of smoke in the day. So, did the people have a lot of manifestations that God is taking care of them? Sure they did. He fed them manna in the desert and quail. And he got them water when they needed the water. He took care of them. So God's providing for them. Then now they're at the edge of the promised land. They're going to go in and check all these things out. And the reason why they're checking these things out, the purpose of sending these scouts, well, the Bible says spies. They're spying out the land.
Yeah.
You can say scouts or spies either way. It was to determine how they're going to enter the land, not if.
No.
Now that's an important distinction. God said, you will go in. I will make you successful. All you got to do is follow me. Well, we've seen the history already with what's going on. God's been taking care of them, right? So they were supposed to determine how we're going to go strategically in and take care of this area, and not if they were going to enter the land. God would provide the victory. So, ask a couple questions here. What do you imagine the spies were thinking while Moses explained the info he wanted them to bring back? What do you think about that? You got these 12 guys here, and they're hearing these instructions. What would, if you were one of them, how would you feel at that point?
Well, you're overwhelmed some, but
Yeah.
you feel honored too. I would think you'd feel honored.
You've been picked. You're the best of the best of each of the tribes. So yeah, I think that's a good point. You would probably feel apprehensive. Who wouldn't?
Well, yeah.
Well, we're going to go into this land I've never seen before. I've heard rumors about this land. We don't know what it's like yet. What's that?
Your fear.
We're getting there.
Oh.
But yes, there's some fear probably just in the fact that they didn't know.
Yeah.
So you have that as well. What would have caused them to be afraid? We kind of talked about that already. The unknown, right? Is the unknown kind of scary sometimes? Sure it is. I remember joining the Air Force. How about you, Steve? And you went to basic training, and you get on this plane, you know, and you fly out to this place called San Antonio, and you get off the plane, you know.
Why am I here?
The heat and the humidity go.
Yeah.
It's like,
Where
am I? This is summertime, San Antonio.
I was December.
Well, you didn't hear that part. You didn't feel that part.
No, it was nice.
But you get on this bus, you get off the bus, and there's this couple guys in these strange looking hats, screaming at you.
Yeah.
Pick up your bags, put your bags down. Pick up your bags, put your bags down.
Yeah.
All this stuff, you know, it's all designed to break you down and become a unit, is what they were doing that for. But anyway, it's a scary thing. And so I was scared when I went into that situation. But Moses made a certain command here. Where was that? No. Don't do that to me. Don't say that and not give me the verse there. Notice Moses' command to be courageous. Not here. It must be coming up. So we're going to see that part, unless it was the verses I'd read previously here. Let me see here. No, well, he does. He tells them to be courageous as they're going into this area. We'll find out here in the next few verses. How should Christians...
Here it is.
What verse was that?
In 20.
Verse 20?
Be courageous brings back some fruit. 1320, yeah.
Somehow.
In
I think-
1320.
Yeah, somehow I missed that part when I was reading
Yeah,
that.
make an effort to get some of the fruit of the land.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's go on from this point here. It says, how should Christians find the needed courage to fulfill God's plans? How should we find the courage that we need to do those things that God's called us to do? There'll be some ways you can think of to find that kind of courage.
By relying on God.
Okay.
By prayerfully relying on God.
Okay, so thinking and willing the fact, that's one way. Another way would be to maybe to remember what God's done for you already, right? And when you do that, does it reinforce the courage you need? Yeah, sure it does. Also, another thing would be to read how God's fulfilled those kind of things in other people's lives in the Bible Chronicles, right? You can get a lot of courage from the fact that you know God did this for these people. He's going to do it for you too.
That marriage ceremony yesterday reminds you too that a marriage relies on God. I mean, if you do rely on God, it makes a stronger marriage.
Exactly right. Yes, it does. Once the spies received their marching orders, they set out on their mission. Over the next 40 days, they thoroughly explored Canaan just as Moses had directed them. So 40 days is like a general term. It means a little more than a month in our vernacular, okay?
Yeah.
Was it exactly 40 days? Could have been. It could have been a little more, could have been a little less. But it was about that time frame you'd expect for something to be. 40 is a term that's used a lot in the Bible. We don't know exactly if it was 40 days, but it's very close to that. Let's look at the next point here. The next point is the land assessed. Now, whenever somebody comes to assess our property and our land, we get a little upset. What do you think the assessor comes knocking on our door? I want to see how much more I want to tax you.
Yeah, the only reason that that's,
I know they do it different ways. I'm just saying it in a way that we can figure it
Yeah,
out.
but-
Anyway.
well, the assessment goes up.
Yeah.
The taxes, yeah.
But this is this is what the proper term, I guess, would be evaluation. You want to evaluate, see what the value is here as far as for us to do what we need to do, right? So in verses 21 through 25, notice the locations mentioned in the text here. And that's my verse. So they went up and they spied out the land from the wilderness of Zin as far as Rehob at Lebo Mahath. When they had gone up into the Negev, they came to Hebron, where Ahman, Sheshnai, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, were. Now Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. Then they came to the valley of Eshcol, and from there they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes, and they carried it on a pole between two men, with some of the pomegranates and the figs. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster which the sons of Israel cut down from there, when they returned from spying out the land at the end of 40 days. So that time frame expired, and they came back. And they came back after going throughout this area, right? So looking at these verses again, what are some of the places we see mentioned?
Hebron.
Hebron, okay. Hebron. Where is Hebron on my map? I should have looked at that already. It's on here, I know it is. Hebron's an important place.
Wilderness of Zin.
Yeah, Wilderness of Zin's right here. The Negev, or Negeb, is right here. What else? Oh, Hebron's right here. What else did they mention? The Valley of Eshcol. Where's the Valley of Eshcol? I should have looked that one up too. I don't see it exactly where it would be. It's on here somewhere. Here
There it is.
The Valley of Eshcol right here, right? And so if you look at the descriptions of the things they did and where they went, and you note this little red line here, they came into the southern entrance of the land of Canaan, right? And they went up all the way up through Hebron, Jericho area, all the way up to Hazar, all the way up to Lebo Hamath. I know I mentioned that one as well. So Where do they go from? The southern edge to what?
The northern.
The northern edge. So did they do their job? Did they scout out that land? Sure did, didn't they? They were thorough. They went all the way. It doesn't say they kept to a certain path. So this is the main places they hit. But my guess is they probably zigzagged a lot to check out different things. They went all the way up to here and then came back down again. So they were pretty thorough, weren't they?
Said they traveled 12 to 13 miles a day, so
Yeah.
that's quite a hike.
It is. It's quite a hike. It's something that if you factor it out, you have to be in good shape to do it.
Yeah.
You have to be in pretty good shape to do that, right?
Of course, they had all been already wandering in the wilderness, so they were probably used to exercise.
So they had to balance acting in faith with gathering this information. Notice the thoroughness of the scouts' mission from south to north, and what they found in Canaan. And we see that the Hebrew spies scouted out an area known as the wilderness of Zin. This was the southern boundary for Canaan. And the northernmost region the spies scouted was at the entrance to Hamath, that Lebo Hamath area on the very northern edge. So the text highlights the thoroughness of the scouts' mission from the south to the north. In verse 22, they were in an area around Hebron, it says. The spies also caught their first recorded glimpse of the enemies, the people who were in the land that they would face. These were the descendants of Anak. They were known as the Anakim, which means long-necked or strong-necked. And the relatives of Anak included three powerful leaders, Ahman, Shishai, and Talmah. The Anakim were also known as what? I'll give you a hint. I think Goliath must have came from this family.
Wasn't it the Nephilim?
They were what? Stature-wise. Their stature was?
Tall.
Tall, yeah, there we
They
go.
were big men.
They were considered giant people.
Yeah.
And they were related, like you said, to the Nephilim. And that's mentioned in Genesis 6:4, by the way. And it would have presented a significant challenge to conquering that land. In fact, that some of the scouts pointed out later, if you look at Numbers 13:33. I think I have that here. Numbers 13:33. Here it is. Says we also saw the Nephilim. The sons of Anak were part of the Nephilim, and we became like grasshoppers in our own sight. So we were in their sight. So they felt what when they saw these giant people? They felt inadequate. Have you ever come across a situation where maybe you meet a person who's like 6'9"?
I haven't, but
you look up at it and say, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm a midget compared to that person, right? Well, that's what they're saying. We don't have that same strength and stature. We're like grasshoppers in their sight. We're insignificant to these people.
one of my nephews is 6'7", and that's
pretty tall.
quite tall.
That's pretty tall, yeah. So how would you feel? Would you feel a little scared?
Well, they probably were because they were alone. I mean, 12 people as opposed to all these
That's true too.
huge numbers, yeah.
In verse 23 through 24, we see another account that's talking about it, and this is the account of the huge cluster of grapes. Now, you probably remember this story from when you were a kid. I do. I remember where the children of Israel, spied out the land, and they came back with a grape cluster so big they couldn't carry it one person. You had to put it on a stick to carry it between two people. Something along that lines. And I have seen clusters. Now these are like multi-clusters that were. I mean, you can Google images online and see what I'm talking about, and they're giant, big, huge multi-clusters, and it could have been something like that. But the wording is it's a cluster being like a standard cluster. The standard cluster, and this standard cluster was larger than normal.
Yeah.
And it would be something that was hard to carry one person, so they had to share the load. So what would that be symbolizing?
If the land is fertile, or if
How fruitful the land was.
Right.
Yeah, how productive things were.
and God promised them a land of milk and honey, which
That's right.
comparatively and pomegranates,
Yeah.
large pomegranates.
Yes.
So
Figs, Olives, probably all kinds of things were very productive in that area of the country, and so that was what they were probably brought back with them. You're going to say something, Steve?
It just sounded my brain went. For 40 years, you gave us milk and honey, and now we get grapes.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I think of the song, but we're not there yet. But Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good song. And
that's going to be later coming up.
Yes, that's later.
You're right. But anyway, so we see this term. You mentioned milk and honey. This is a term, a general term that's used to describe a place that's very productive.
Yeah.
A place that they've got so much food, they don't know what to do with it. You know, and so the idea is a place that has lots of wild honey. Now the milk part is probably because there's lots of flocks, and more than likely goats they're talking about. Goats were very big with milk production back then. So they didn't have cows like we do, but most of their stuff came from these big flocks of goats. So the idea is it's such a productive land. There's so many goats and wild honey and productive other things. So milk and honey meant that general classification of being very productive, bountiful.
I bet they milk the sheep too.
I don't think sheep are milked normally. Goats are for sure.
But I've seen sheep cheese, so
yeah,
you know.
yeah, I said normally.
No.
But goats are known for this.
Yes, they are.
Some goats are very productive milk-wise too.
Oh.
And it's actually better for you than cow's milk.
It is.
A lot of times, many years ago, when you had a problem with your own milk coming in, they would use goat's milk as a substitute because it was very nourishing.
My sister was one of those babies that couldn't have cow milk, and
right,
so
right. But the goat milk would work.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So that's another reason why they were doing that. Where was I in this thing? That was the right verse. Yeah. So they meet these giant people. That's what we left off with. And then we had the cluster of grapes, right? And they brought that back. So the cluster proved as proof that God was faithful to make good on his promises. He said he'd bring him to a land of milk and honey, and he did. That's the thing. Unfortunately, the people's amazement would not overcome their fears and doubts that were planted in their hearts by the 10 unfaithful spies that we're going to be looking at here. In Numbers 13, 26 to 29, I think that was the next verses. Hold on just a second. 24, 26.
Through 31.
Oh, is that the next section, isn't it? Yes, it's the next section. No wonder I can't see that there. Okay, we're getting to that one though. We're getting to that one in a moment here. But there was the fact that the Anakim, and also, I think they also tell us later on about the cities too. The fact that they were a lot of fortified cities. We're going to get to that as well. But there is something that's happening to these 12 men. They're experiencing something when they see these people in these places. They're experiencing this word we got up on the board here, right? Fear. How do you respond to fear is the question. You got these 12 men, and how are they going to respond to fear? So we're going to look at that a little more here in a little bit. But what are some things that create fear in people's lives? What creates fear in our lives?
Well, I've never been in the military or been in war, but if you're in war and people are shooting at you,
okay,
and I'm sure that's kind of how the 10 men felt when they faced all these huge people. They probably felt like, we can't do this.
Okay.
They're too big for us.
Yeah.
So when we're facing war and conflict, that's what definitely some things that create fear. What else? Another thing that creates fear?
Fear of failure.
Okay, failing. Okay, that's good.
But they had God's promise.
Oh, I know
But
that.
they
But
couldn't-
we're going to
I
get to that in a
know,
moment
but,
here.
you know.
So what are some other things that create fear? How about
things you've done in the past.
Okay, yeah, past experiences.
Learned experiences, past experiences, negative ones.
And they'd gone all those years with limited, well, they had enough food, but they didn't have a variety of food. They were probably...
Food worries?
Yeah. But when they got over there and saw all that food, I'm sure they...
Well, we talked about that, I think, last week, too. Remember they were saying, oh, if only we were back in Egypt,
right,
where we had cucumbers and we had fish, free fish, and all these other things they said. I was thinking of something else. What else creates fear? Oh, disasters. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to spell it right. How do you spell disasters?
D-I-S.
D-I-S, yes.
A-S.
Okay,
T-E-R.
that looks close enough.
Disasters.
Disasters, that's close enough.
D-I-S-A-S-T-E-R.
D-I-S.
A-S.
You did it already.
D-I-S-A. Oh, I did it right. Woohoo!
Yeah.
You got it.
How about sickness?
Yeah. Yeah. As we age, that's a big worry.
Yeah. Anything else you think of?
Dennis.
Dentist. Well, health concerns. That's a good one.
Yeah.
There's probably many others we could list to, right?
Health concerns for ourselves and also our loved ones.
Well, in general.
I mean, yeah.
In general. Either ourselves or other loved ones. That's true. I mean, we know what that means. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
But there's other things we could probably put there as well. Those are some good things. Something that could create fear in people's lives is maybe disobeying God.
Well, should put
It
fear
should.
in our lives.
Yeah, it should. So we can think about that as well. Anyway, but those things can be things that can cause fear in us, right? The power of fear in our lives is a really strong force. And fear can do something in our lives. It can overwhelm us. We can let fear get a hold of us and we can be paralyzed. You've probably seen animals, like a wolf comes up to a sheep and the sheep goes like this, or the rabbit or whatever it is, it like freezes.
Yeah.
They're overwhelmed by the fact of this creature that can kill them is right there, and so those kind of things are common. We sometimes as humans go through that too, right? Those kind of things, it can be overcome by it. What might be some ways though that we can overcome fear in our life? How can we overcome fear in our life?
Trying to think positively instead of letting that fear overcome. We can pray or we
Face
can...
it.
Yes.
Okay. This is some ways that we can overcome fear. These verses I have here, I think it's this one here, and this one here, and this one here, in our extra verses here. And go ahead and read yours that I gave you just now.
Okay. Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not anxiously look about you, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Surely I will help you. Surely I will uphold you with my righteous right hand.
So Isaiah is a prophet. He had fears, and he needed to be reassured, and God was doing that, right? Go ahead and read yours.
For God has not given us a spirit of timidity, but of power and love and discipline.
Exactly. He has not given us that kind of. He's given us a fear of strength, right? So lean on God. In John 14:27, Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives to you. Do not let your heart be troubled, nor let it be fearful." When the Messiah tells you that, you can count it. You can take it to the bank, as they say, right? And so it's a lot easier said than done. I know that. But that's something that they tell us, the Bible tells us to be reassured that He will help us in our fears. Let's look at the last point here. Decision at hand, the decision at hand. This is Numbers 13, verses 26 through 31. Now, for our last 6 verses, I want you to notice the contrast between the 10 spies and Caleb in this particular instance. Now, just a little word here. Caleb is taking a stand here, and he's saying these things. And you don't hear Joshua mentioned here. But Joshua, in my mind, is right next to Caleb. He's going like this.
Yeah.
Yes. So because later on we see, and I've got some extra verses to talk about that here in a moment. But go ahead and read those verses for us, Sharon,
Okay.
and notice the contrast between 10 spies and Caleb, those two groups. Go ahead.
The men went back to Moses, Aaron, and the entire Israelite community in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. They brought back a report for them and the whole community, and they showed them the fruit of the land. They reported to Moses, "We went into the land where you sent us. Indeed, it is flowing with milk and honey, and here is some of its fruit. However, the people living in the land are strong, and the cities are large and fortified. We also saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites are living in the land of the Negev, and Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live by the sea and along the Jordan." Then Caleb quieted the people in the presence of Moses and said, "We must go up and take possession of the land, because we certainly can conquer it." But the men who had gone up with him responded, "We can't go up against the people because they are stronger than we are." Oops, there we are.
So the decision at hand was, they think, well, we're going to go in or not. That wasn't the decision God told them to do. Their decision was, how are we going to do what God is going to give us, right? How are we going to do this? And so did they act in faith or unfaith? Unfaithfulness.
Unfaithful. Yeah, they questioned God.
Yeah, they said, "No, God, you don't know as much as we do. We're not going to do it." Essentially. Or they told Moses, "We're not going to do it. No, count us out. 10-2. No." The thing is, it wasn't a democratic society there. It was a theocratic society, and God was leading them to go and do it. They were being unfaithful when they said we can't do it. That's like throwing in the face of God all those things that He had done for them. That's what they did to God. You imagine, it would break my heart if I was God in that situation.
Oh yeah. Why did He not send Caleb to live along with Joshua? Caleb was also faithful and reported.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, those two were the only two that went into the promised land later.
Oh, I thought it was only Joshua.
No, Caleb and Joshua
went too.
Yeah, and as we're going to see when they finally go into the promised land after the 40 years of wandering is coming
right,
that Caleb asks for the land where the Amalekites are, where the sons of Anak are. I can go in and take care of them. So those are the stumbling points, and he says, "I'm going in there. The strong hand of the Lord will be with me," and of course He was. But anyway, so they had these fears, though. They were considering the pros and cons of entering the promised land, right? So what were some of the pros of going into this land?
There was food.
There was lots of food. There was an abundance of food, right?
Yeah. But it was going to be their land. It was land promised to them from down through their generations, they heard.
Right. It was their land until they went to Egypt because of the famine. And they were just coming back to their land. It'd be like if you went on a long vacation somewhere and let's say you had, 5 acres of land, and you came back to your 5 acres of land and you found, lo and behold, there's a house built on there. Somebody else built a house on my land. I read an account of this just recently, and the guy was flummoxed. He says, "Where did this house come from? It's a brand new house on his property." It's like, he'd been paying taxes on it. This is his land. He's got the title, but there was a house on it. And so they hadn't figured out what they're going to do yet.
God, somebody gave me a house.
Yeah, somebody gave me a house. They hadn't figured out exactly what they're going to do yet. But, and he wants to be fair about it. Maybe they made an honest mistake. But it'd be like that kind of thing. You come back to your property, you've been gone for a little bit, and somebody's taking it over.
Well, years ago, my folks had 375 acres on Livingston Mountain, but it had been sold, and but my mother still had 20 acres when somebody bought, I know the contractor, but anyway, when he bought this adjacent land out of their acreage, he tried to, he in his contract, he wrote in a quarter of an acre of my mother's land that wasn't sold.
Huh.
And after years, my brother noticed it, and he went to court, and he got that back. So kind of, it's like,
It's sort of like that, isn't it?
yeah, it is, because here, they've been promised this land,
Yeah.
back.
Well, anyway, so the pros are that they know God is with them, right? They know it's a land of milk and honey, right? They know it's a beautiful place. They know they used to own it. They used to be there, and it's their land, right? Those are the pros. What's the cons?
The giants that live there now.
Yeah, and also they talked about the cities that are fortified and
Right.
very large. They talk about that. So they focus on the negatives here also. That these people are very strong, and there's all these different people there now. You know, it was our land, but these people have moved in. They've taken it over. And they go and list the litany of them: the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, all these other groups that were in their land, and they're inhabiting it. So they thought, no, we can't. We're not able to go up against these people. The people are just too strong. Now we've seen other complaints, other things that mentioned how they were unfaithful as well, because they would not trust God. Right? We talked about that earlier in our handout. Where it talks about the complaints in the wilderness. Which one was that? Handout number 4. Yeah, there it is. And so this is just add this to the list, right? There was all these different things they were complaining about in that second column, the complaint. And so this is something that God has heard them over and over doing this.
But
How would you feel if you were God in this situation? Now, it's not easy for us to feel like God, I realize that. But in a way it is, if you think about it, if you put
you'd
yourself...
be very disappointed.
Yeah,
Oh boy, here we go again.
yeah. One more time, oh no.
But
Yeah.
if the majority of the Israelites, or the people, had gone with Caleb and Joshua, the Moses and Aaron might have, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, that's true. Anyway, so note the complaints related to this chapter, number 13. In the middle of all this fear, one man stands up. Caleb, and he took a stand of faith. He understood God's promises and refused to take his eyes off what the Lord wanted him to do among his people. And that's what we see him standing up and doing. So, in verses 30 and 31, Caleb and Joshua were the only scouts who believed the people should go up and conquer the land. Now, like I said, it doesn't mention Joshua here, but if you look at some other verses, you see that Joshua was involved in this as well. Numbers chapter 14, there's 2 extra verses I had at the bottom there. Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Zephaniah, of those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes. So Joshua and Caleb tore their clothes. What does that mean? They're grieving.
Yeah.
They're outraged. They're grieving and outraged about what was going on with these other 10 people. And the rejection of God that they saw. In verse 30 it says, surely you shall not come into the land, this is God speaking, which I swore to settle you, except Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun. And you know what's funny is, it didn't mention Moses there.
No.
You know why? Moses was unfaithful too at a certain point. He was told to speak to the rock and water would come out. Instead, in a fit of anger, he took his staff and he
Smacked it.
smacked it. And because of that, he was not able to go into the promised land.
He also said, or I think he said, that he had brought them the water, whereas it was God that...
That's probably true as well. I don't know. But I don't remember that part. But I know he disobeyed God.
Yes.
Essentially. He was showing his unfaithfulness there. So there can be a lot of obstacles, right, that prevent us, maybe delay us from obeying God. And these things were obstacles for the children of Israel to obeying God, right? They saw these as things they could not overcome, and they needed to say, wait, no, we can't do it. They expressed faithlessness, didn't they? So we don't want to be faithless like they were. We want to be faithful, don't we? let's look at the main summary points because we're just about done, and they're going to ring the bell on me soon. I can just feel it in my bones. So the main summary points we want to look at is, first one is that Christians can depend on God to instruct them in the tasks that He has for them. He can. We can depend on Him. He will give us the right instructions. Second one is obedience to God includes understanding what He is calling us to do. Sometimes we assume certain things without really knowing that this is what God wants us to do. And sometimes it's things we want to do, and we're couching it in a way that, oh, God's really calling me to abandon my family and go to Africa to be a missionary. No, God's not calling you to do that. I've heard that before, by the way. God would never call you to abandon your family. So you got to be sure you're on the right page with God. Third point is Christians can face obstacles with faith. Can't we? We can. Knowing that God is with them. We can face those obstacles. Like Caleb knew there were obstacles there. He realized it. He's no dummy. He understood it, but he knew he could also face them because God was with him. And like I said, later on we see he wants that harder part to take. He wants to take that harder part. He's ready to do it because God's with him. That's why. So these are rhetorical questions, okay? Rhetorical questions, but you don't have to answer them, just to make you think a little bit. What act of obedience have you been delaying because you were maybe afraid it was too hard? Ooh, you're stepping on my toes a little bit, Norm. Be careful there. But there can be those things, right, where we think, well, I'm not sure I can do that. Maybe it's in the area of giving, Well, I'm not sure. Maybe I should start tithing, but, I don't know if I can trust God entirely with that. And you'll be amazed what happens when you tithe. Steve can relate to that, and others can also. I know. Another question. What things do you need to do that will move you towards obeying God in what He is leading you to do? So, in other words, what do you need to do to get around those obstacles? We need to find out. Maybe it's because we're not in God's Word enough. Maybe it's because we're not worshiping like we should be. There's a lot of things that can cause those things. Maybe we're just not listening to God and how He's talking to us in our prayer life. If we're praying right? So those are some things we need to do. Those three summary points kind of hit home sometimes, don't they? So we need to remember that faith overcomes fear. So identifying our fears and giving them up to God is a powerful first step towards overcoming those doubts and anxieties. Now, you don't do it and just blindly, walk into the buzzsaw of the enemy. You have to prepare. But you have to decide you're going to do it. If God says, I want you to do these things, you got to be ready to do it the way He wants you to do it. So there's more than just blind faith necessarily. Not only do you do faith because you know God is with you, but you do it because He's preparing you to do that. He'll never send you to do something you're not prepared to do. I found that out myself personally. So the challenge, what's the challenge from today's study? Is for us to have that backbone or boldness, the faith of Caleb. To see challenges through God's eyes and rely on His strength. That's what Caleb did, right? To seek His forgiveness for the times maybe when doubts and fears have perhaps weakened our faith and kept us from obeying Him. Because guess what? We all do that. Every one of us do that. So nobody's immune to fear. Fear can get you. The thing is, you got to get beyond the fear and realize God's in charge. God's in charge. He's going to help me with that, whatever it is.
Another fear can be fear of pain.
Yeah. Fear of failing, too.
Yes.
Yeah. All those, definitely. So, anyway, that's our study today. I think it's a great study. Unfortunately, these 10 men were then killed because of their unfaithfulness. And actually, the whole group of the people there had to die, except Caleb and Joshua, before they could enter the promised land. So God's gonna show them, okay, I'm gonna teach you some things in the wilderness now since you were unfaithful. I'm gonna teach you how to be more faithful.
So Joshua and Caleb must have been quite, they were older they were
Yes.
senior citizens by the
Sure.
time they went in.
But God gave them the vigor they needed.
Right.
And that's an interesting thing as well. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
When we talk about how long they've been out in the wilderness and how God sustained them and their clothes would not even wear out. That's an amazing thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's close in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this study today. Thank you that we can face these fears, Lord, and we can be obedient in the faith that we need to be in. Thank you for this example of Caleb we see. and how he stood up and said, no, I think we should follow God instead of our fears. And help us to be that way. That you can help us with things that maybe seem too difficult, maybe too complicated, that you can help us in those areas. Thank you in your son's name. Amen. All right. Well, thank you very much. For those of you online, thank you for being there as well. And just pray that you have a great week. And please stand by for the next hour at this same YouTube channel if you're watching. Our pastor, Pastor Matthew, will be bringing the message. And my name is Norm Ellis, and this is Grace Baptist Church Adult One Bible Study. God bless you all.
You know what? I forgot my phone at home, so you'll have to do this.
I can do it.
Oh no, phone home.
Yeah, phone home.
New
E.T.
stream.
phone home.
What the heck? Stream finished?
Yeah, it's been going blink blink.
I don't know what that means. Stop recording.